Need a hand, Miss Carter? The voice was like a rusty key, jabbing unexpectedly into the lock of my memories. I snapped my head up, raindrops blurring my vision. All I could make out was a dark gray tailored suit jacket and wind-tousled flaxen hair. Not until he held out an umbrella, tilting its rim just enough to shield me, did I see his face clearly. Elias Thorne. My breath caught in my throat. The boy I'd lost touch with after high school now stood in London's rain, his sleeves rolled up to reveal a smoothly muscled forearm, a vintage watch on his wrist dotted with raindrops. Gone was the awkward teen who'd spilled beakers in chemistry lab. In his place was the poise unique to architects. Mr. Thorne? I instinctively tucked my rain-dampened bangs behind my ear, my voice tight. What are you doing here? He smiled, the crinkle at his eyes unchanged from a decade ago. My firm's just down the next street. I just finished the morning meeting. He bent to pick up my canvas bag by the steps, hefting it slightly. Working part-time at the bookstore? The store's logo was printed on the bag. I couldn't deny it, so I just nodded. He pressed the umbrella into my hand, then stepped into the rain to open the door of a black car parked by the curb. Get in. Your cinnamon roll will go cold if you wait any longer. I froze, staring at him. How did he know I'd brought a cinnamon roll for breakfast? I'd bought it yesterday at the British bakery downstairs from my apartment, specifically choosing the one dusted with slivered almonds. You always ate them during morning study in high school, Elias said, as if reading my confusion. He leaned over to hold open the passenger door. Also, your bag's leaking syrup. I glanced down. Sure enough, a trickle of amber syrup seeped through the bag's seams. My cheeks burned instantly. Sliding into the car, I was greeted by the faint scent of cedar on the leather seats, the same clean warmth as his cologne. The windshield wipers swayed rhythmically, slicing the London streetscape into flowing patches of color. I clutched the still warm cinnamon roll, my heart beat faster than the rain tapping against the windows. When did you move to London? I broke the silence first, pretending to focus on the time on the dashboard. 2 years ago, transferred here by the firm. He turned the steering wheel, and the car glided smoothly into a cobblestone lane. You? Grad school? Yeah, comparative literature at UCL. 1 more year till graduation. I broke off a small piece of the cinnamon roll and popped it into my mouth. The sweet, not cloying aroma spread across my tongue, easing my nerves a little. Never thought I'd run into you here. Small world. It certainly is. He glanced at me, his eyes lingering on the sugar crumbs at the corner of my mouth for half a second before darting away. Is the bookstore work tiring? Not really, just a bit hard on the back when organizing old books. I smiled. But being surrounded by books every day? It's nice. By the time the car pulled up to the bookstore, the rain had lightened. I unbuckled my seatbelt, about to thank him, when Elias suddenly spoke up. Free tonight? I know a great Italian place nearby. My heart skipped a beat as I looked up, my gaze colliding with his. His eyes were earnest, not teasing, but I couldn't be sure. Was this just politeness between old classmates, or something more? Back in high school, we'd only been casual friends who discussed homework occasionally. We'd even lost touch on WeChat not long after graduation. I have to organize new books tonight. I fumbled for an excuse. Truth was, the bookstore closed at 6. Maybe next time. I'll treat you, to thank you for the ride. His eyes dimmed for a moment, but quickly brightened again. He handed me a business card. My contact info. Call me if you need anything. My fingers brushed his as I took it, and I pulled back as if shocked by static. The card was minimalist, just his name, phone number, and firm address, printed on thick matte paper, as substantial as the man himself. When I walked into the bookstore, Mrs. Martha, the owner, winked at me. Who was that handsome fellow who dropped you off? Quite the looker. Just a high school classmate. I mumbled, tucking the card into my apron pocket, my heart still racing. I was distractedly all afternoon at work, nearly knocking over a row of Dickens works while restocking shelves. Elias' face replayed in my mind, his smile, his gaze, that sudden invitation. I pulled out my phone, opened my contacts, and hovered over the Add Contact button for ages before closing the app. What if it was just politeness? I didn't want to make a fool of myself and end up awkward afterward. To my surprise, Elias showed up at the bookstore again the next afternoon. Dressed in a casual white shirt, he held a copy of Lady Chatterley's Lover and stood in the literature section, sunlight filtering through the stained glass windows onto him like a painting. You like Lawrence too? I walked over, trying to keep my voice natural. He turned, and his eyes lit up when he saw me. Not particularly. But my firm's project needs references on British modern literary context. He waved the book. Would you recommend it? If you're looking for social context, Sons and Lovers might be better. I pulled the book from the shelf and handed it to him. Lawrence's critique of industrial society is more direct here. His fingertips brushed mine as he took the book, and my cheeks heated up again. I'll take your word for it, you're the expert. He smiled. Free after work? Let me buy you a coffee. I didn't refuse this time. For one thing, another refusal would seem deliberate. For another, I really needed to figure out his intentions. The cafe next to the bookstore was small, specializing in pour-over coffee. We sat by the window. Elias ordered a Yirgachev, I a cappuccino. Stirring his coffee spoon, he talked slowly about life after high school, getting into Cambridge's architecture program, joining a firm after graduation, working on several famous restoration projects, including an old castle in Edinburgh. That sounds amazing. I cupped the warm coffee mug. I always thought you'd become a doctor, since both your parents are physicians. They definitely hoped so. He smiled. But I've loved drawing houses since I was a kid. My notebooks were full of little house sketches back then. He looked at me. You always said you wanted to study literature in high school. Now you've made it happen. I froze. I couldn't believe he remembered my high school dream. I'd only mentioned it casually during a class presentation, and I'd almost forgotten it myself. Yeah, never thought it would actually come true. I looked down, hiding the emotion in my eyes. London has a great literary atmosphere, but rent's pricey. That's why I took the part-time job. Don't hesitate to ask for help if you need it. He spoke seriously. I've lived here 2 years, I know the city pretty well. Over the next few weeks, Elias became a regular at the bookstore. Sometimes he'd buy a few books, other times he'd just sit on the couch in the corner, quietly reading documents while waiting for me to finish work. We went to the nearby market together. He helped me pick out a handcrafted silver bookmark. We ate lunch on a bench in Hyde Park. He carefully wiped the sandwich sauce from the corner of my mouth. We watched an open-air screening of the classic Roman holiday. When and Joe hugged on screen, his shoulder brushed mine inadvertently. I could feel his warmth, but I didn't dare look at him. The air between us grew increasingly ambiguous, yet neither of us dared to cross that line. I found myself guessing his feelings every day. He remembered my preferences, cared about my life, waited for me outside the bookstore on rainy days, and brought me warm soup when I was sick. But he never once said he liked me. Even Mrs. Martha couldn't stand it anymore. She teased me while I organized old books. Ella, that handsome boy obviously likes you. Why don't you make the first move? I'm not sure. I sighed. What if he just sees me as a little sister? Would a sister make him wait for you after work every day, remember you hate cilantro, and buy tickets in advance when you mention wanting to see an art exhibition? Mrs. Martha patted my shoulder. Don't overthink it. If you like him, say something. Easy for her to say, but I lacked the courage. I was afraid that once I spoke up, I'd lose even this ambiguous sweetness we had. Things changed on a Saturday afternoon. I had the day off and went to Covent Garden with classmates to watch street performances, only to run into Elias. He stood with a blonde woman, laughing and talking animatedly. She had a sweet smile, wore an elegant dress, and looked perfect standing beside him. My mood plummeted instantly. I turned to leave, but Elias called out to me. Ella? He hurried over, the blonde woman following. What a coincidence. You're here too. Yeah, with classmates. I forced my voice to sound calm, avoiding looking at the woman beside him. Let me introduce you. This is Sophia, my colleague, and my cousin. Elias gestured to the woman. Sophia, this is Ella, my high school classmate, and a very important friend. The phrase, very important friend, stabbed at my heart. I managed a weak smile. Nice to meet you, Sophia. Nice to meet you too, Ella. Sophia was warm and friendly. Elias talks about you often, says you're incredibly talented. I froze, glancing at Elias. He was looking at me with an unreadable expression. The street performances were brilliant, but I couldn't focus, not when my mind kept replaying, very important friend. That night, Elias texted asking if I was upset. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying, no, just tired. In the days that followed, I deliberately avoided him. I used thesis writing as an excuse to end my bookstore shift early and stopped replying to his messages. I knew it was childish, but I couldn't face him, or my own overeager heart. Then on Friday evening, I got a message from Mrs. Martha saying there was a package for me at the bookstore. Thinking it was the books I'd ordered online, I grabbed an umbrella and headed over. The bookstore was already closed, but a warm yellow light glowed at the entrance. Elias stood beneath it, holding an exquisitely wrapped box. What are you doing here? I stopped, my tone cold. I borrowed the key from Mrs. Martha. I've been waiting for you. He walked over and held out the box. This is for you. I didn't take it. I don't need anything from you. Just look at it first. He pressed the box into my hands. You can be mad after. Hesitantly, I opened it. Inside was a beautifully bound sketchbook. Its cover was a drawing I'd done in high school, King's College, Cambridge, which I'd painted in an art class. Elias had sat next to me then and praised my work. Inside the sketchbook were his architectural drafts from the past few years, and in the corner of every page was a tiny doodle, done in exactly the same style as my old sketches. On the last page was a handwritten note in fountain pen. The first time I saw your painting of King's College in art class, I thought this girl had light in her eyes. I've liked you since then. I was afraid to tell you too soon, worried it would distract you from your studies. Then we lost touch, and I thought I'd never see you again, until I spotted you outside the bookstore. That's when I realized some feelings just can't be hidden. I know I'm clumsy, and I'm sorry for making you misunderstand. Ella, will you be my girlfriend? Tears blurred my vision instantly. So it wasn't just my imagination, his feelings were older and deeper than mine. Why didn't you say something earlier? I asked through tears, tapping his chest lightly with my fist. He caught my hand and pulled me into his arms, his voice trembling slightly. I'm sorry for making you wait so long. His embrace was warm, filled with the familiar cedar scent. Ella, I like you, not as a friend. I want to see all of London's sights with you, taste every street food, and spend the rest of my life with you. I buried my face in his shirt and nodded, my tears soaking the fabric. The rain still fell, but my heart felt bright and clear. Later, I learned he'd gone out of his way to ask our high school classmates about me. When he found out I was in grad school in London, he took the firm's transfer opportunity to come here. His daily bookstore visits weren't coincidences, he'd made a special detour. Remembering my preferences wasn't just good memory, he'd stored every word I said in his heart. Our relationship wasn't grand or dramatic, but it was filled with sweet little details. He'd go out of his way to buy my favorite cinnamon rolls in the morning, bring me warm milk when I stayed up late writing my thesis, take me to niche art galleries and bookstores on weekends, and even cook my favorite Chinese dishes when I felt homesick. They weren't great, but I ate every bite happily. Once we went on the London Eye. When we reached the top, he suddenly pulled out a ring, not a diamond one, but a simple silver band engraved with our initials. It's not an engagement ring, he scratched his head, looking a little embarrassed. I designed it myself, as a keepsake of our relationship. I smiled and slipped it on, it fit perfectly. Looking down from the London Eye, the entire city was bathed in the glow of the setting sun, breathtakingly beautiful. But more beautiful than London itself was the man beside me, and the sweetness of our reunion after years apart. I once thought reunions only happened in movies, never imagined it would happen to me. Turns out some fates, no matter how much time or distance separates them, always find a way to reconnect. Those uncertain hesitations and cautious tests eventually turned into a sweet relationship, becoming the most precious memory between us. Now, we still fill every day with little joys. He helps me organize old books at the bookstore, I go with him to construction sites to check progress. We share an umbrella on rainy days, build snowmen on snowy ones, and prepare small surprises for each other on every anniversary. I'm so grateful I didn't walk away from him that day outside the bookstore. Grateful I didn't give up when I felt unsure. Because the best kind of love is this: after years apart, you're still by my side, and we get to spend the rest of our days making every moment sweet.